Good afternoon. All right, it's great to see you here joining us in the auditorium and those of you that are following on live stream as we welcome Dr. Ravi Thadhani to Emory University and to hear from him about the Woodruff Health Science Center. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Greg Fenves, and I would like to take a few minutes to say why I'm excited about this important time at Emory University. 2 weeks ago, I gave a university-wide address on the rejuvenated One Emory strategy. I won't repeat it here, don't worry, except to say that Emory would not be Emory without our health sciences and without our magnificent healthcare system. The One Emory strategy, the rejuvenated One Emory strategy, has a new pillar, and it says exactly how important the Woodruff Health Science Center and Emory Healthcare is to Emory, which I titled Thriving Healthcare, Inventing Cures. And that is why you all are here at Emory and why you're here this afternoon. As president, I want to make it very clear that Emory University is committed to the success of the Woodruff Health Science Center and Emory Healthcare. The future of our university depends on the academic success of the strong schools and units within the health sciences. And second, our success requires that Emory Healthcare thrive in its mission to provide unmatched care to the patients of our community and beyond. I have full confidence in Dr. Thadhani and his ability and his track record to lead us towards that success, and he will need you to work also on that success. There is much to be done amidst much change. I anticipate having a CEO named and in place for Emory Healthcare by this summer, and the search for the next dean for the School of Medicine is now underway. As you can see by the counter, Dr. Thadhani is halfway through his first 100 days as Executive Vice President for Health Affairs. For those of you that have seen him in action, he listens while he's visiting with patients, going through clinics, talking with physicians, nurses, medical staff, custodial staff. He has walked through the labs of the Woodruff Health Science Center, met with researchers and scientists, and met with students. Not only does he listen, he is a doer and he is a strategist, and that is exactly what we need now at this time in the Woodruff Health Science Center. So please welcome Dr. Ravi Thadhani.
Very nice, Greg. Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, good afternoon, all of you, and I really want to thank Greg for that introduction, and as well, thank you all for taking time in your day, busy day, for being here this afternoon, and of course, for those people online. It's 52 days, as Greg said. I didn't put it in the context of halfway through my 100 days because I guess that's a benchmark, but nevertheless, it is 52 days. I've done my best to listen, to learn, to strategize, and often make decisions with all of you and many of the leaders in this room. Many of you have been kind enough to submit questions, and I've embedded the questions in my presentation and throughout my narrative, so I don't have a Q&A session at the end. I'm going to address the questions as they have come up. So as Greg said, we are an organization, a university where the health system is vital to this university. There we go. The health system is vital to the university, but what makes the health system is our people. It's all of you. Just as Greg said, the health system is critical. The people are critical. It's the people that are the reason why all of our patients, our researchers, our students come to this organization on a daily basis. So as Greg also said, I've had the good fortune of meeting many people in the last 52 days. I've sat with basic science chairs, Eric Sundberg, Gary Bassell, Haiyan Fu, and others, to learn about the challenges on the basic sciences and how the university can, and the Health Science Center can support them. I've gone to the staff meetings with Danny Fallon, as well as with our nursing leaders, to understand the faculty issues, as well as our clinical chairs, thanks to Ira and others. I've also walked the halls of the hospital and had a chance to meet with some incredible people. This is Mark Benson here on the left, the head of the dialysis unit at Decatur, who said, "Dr. Ravi, you're a kidney doctor. We need more dialysis units. Patients in the DeKalb County suffer from kidney disease at an extraordinary rate. I can tell you, build more dialysis units." And that's Jen Shook, the interim CEO. I had a chance to go to Midtown with Dan Owen and Brittany. And Brittany oversees the surgical suites there, the ORs. And she manages this. And she showed me how busy she was. Incredible. I had a chance to speak to the staff that clean the rooms in our hospitals. This is Delmi Reyes, who walked into the room, and instead of just picking up the garbage and cleaning, she actually stopped and asked a patient how he was doing today, with a smile. Every day I walk into the hospital, I see Wilson, the bottom right over there. You can already tell he's smiling behind that mask. You all know Wilson. And then, as you probably don't know, or some of you do know, you can walk into our hospitals and be entertained with some really fine music. And Nilo plays the harpsichord at our entrance, but then she tells me she does it at our nurses' stations as well as in patients' rooms. These are the people that make up Emory Healthcare. These are the people that remind our patients how great of an institution we are. Now, in order to better understand the underbelly of our organization, I've also had the chance of following a patient that had a kidney transplant. Mr. F drove from Alabama, came here, and had a kidney transplant. And I asked Mr. F, why would you drive 2 hours to come to Emory to get a kidney transplant? And he said, because Emory takes care of me and my family. He said, Emory is going to untie me from that dialysis machine. Emory's going to give me new life. Mr. F had his kidney transplant here the first week of January. As you probably know, we do just under 400 kidney transplants here a year. We're one of the largest regions for kidney transplant anywhere in the United States, and certainly in this region, thanks to a number of people in this audience. Mr. F has his kidney transplant, and the transplant, unfortunately, doesn't work as well as it should. Well, at Emory, we do the research that tells us how to treat patients better. That's what differentiates us. This is a picture of Chris Larson and his team with Tom Pearson. And a few years ago, they developed a treatment for kidney rejection, a new immunosuppressive agent called belatacept. Published in the New England Journal, he did the proof of concept studies at our primate center. And I had the good fortune of going and visiting Paul Johnson and Guido Silvestri in the primate center. I went to the primate center and I dressed up in jeans and sneakers in anticipation of seeing primates, and Paul Johnson was in a suit. And I figured maybe he just wears a suit whenever he's in the primate center. But it turns out that the field station is in a different location where all the primates were, and I still have yet to go visit the field station. But the work done at the primate center in combination with the clinic led to the development of a new treatment to help with kidney transplant rejection, to help patients like Mr. F. So Mr. F gets the treatments he needs, but he lives in Alabama, and he can't go back and forth to Alabama because we need to monitor him more closely. So we have yet another gem here at Emory, and that's the Mason House. This house on our campus, supported by Emory and a number of incredible donors, provides a home for our patients at less than $50 a night. This home has 26 beds, 19 rooms, so that Mr. F can come back and forth and get his laboratory values as well as a kidney biopsy whenever he needed it. What an incredible resource. And this is Willie and Zydra and the rest of their team, smiling every time you go see them, happy and proud of being part of our family. We have another tradition here at Emory and the School of Medicine. And this storyboard and thank you, Ildemaro and Cheryl, for this storyboard, tells us yet of another great part of this institution. 1963, the first African-American medical student at Emory School of Medicine, Hamilton Holmes. And there's a lecture in Dr. Holmes's honor every year. In 1968, the first woman African-American in the School of Medicine, Dr. Jürgen Aslov. Fast forward, 1996, Cheryl Herron, the first African-American in the Department of Emergency Medicine. 2011, Valerie Montgomery Rice, a resident here, becomes the president and dean at Morehouse School of Medicine. We passed the 19s. 2013, Jada Bussey Jones, chief of general medicine at Emory and at Grady Hospital. My job, and all of our jobs, should be to continue this storyboard for African Americans as well as other underrepresented communities, so that our leaders and at every segment of our organization we continue to reflect the vibrant and rich diversity of our community. We have an incredible community. Greg talked about this university being part of an important community and a responsibility, and he told me that when I took this position. What does our community mean to us? These are three important institutions that represent our key partners. On the left, your left, Grady Hospital. I had the good fortune of meeting with John Halpert, trying to understand the needs. Our faculty there, thanks to Carlos Del Rio and Charles Moore and others understanding, and Denise Jameson understanding that our students are there, our faculty are there. And we need to do a better job of supporting them, because a strong Grady means a strong Emory. The middle picture, Morehouse School of Medicine, Valerie Montgomery Rice, talking to us and talking to me over lunch about the challenges she has for her students, making sure her students get the best quality of education. We have a responsibility to help her. A strong Morehouse means a strong Emory. Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, spending time with Lucky, as well as with Donna Highland, understanding that we need to provide the excellent staff that they have and they need so that they can continue to be number one in this region. A strong CHOA means a strong Emory. This is a responsibility that we can't take lightly, and we have to continue to nurture, and many of you are key to that future. Now, our community also involves our patients. Patients come to this organization, come to our healthcare system, and they understand when they come here, they expect quality, they expect value, they expect the amazing care that we deliver. When a patient comes into our organization, in any one of our hospitals, she deserves the best standard of care that medicine has to offer. That standard of care has been tried and tested through clinical studies, maybe sometimes here, sometimes elsewhere. But there's a standard of care for many of the diseases that we have. When that standard of care is not available, when that standard of care has yet to be developed, when that disease is not yet well understood, she needs access to the best research, the best diagnostics, the best therapeutics, the best devices. And that's what our differentiating factor is. That's what academic medical centers do, and that's what Emory does. We do research that informs our care. We provide that cutting-edge research. Now, we cannot forego efficiency, quality, access, which I'll come to. But on top of that, our differentiating factor is our academic bent. And that's why our patients come here. That's why researchers come here. That's why our students get trained here in nursing, in public health, and in medicine. What else is our community telling us? This is a map of the United States. The density of red represents the worst outcomes in terms of deaths from cardiovascular disease. And all of you know this. This is that southeast belt of the risk of death from cardiovascular disease. And we are right in the middle of that southeast belt. What's happening in cardiovascular medicine here today? We have to acknowledge that below us to the west of us and to the north of us, our competition, is saying, we understand this belt, and we're going to do better. We're going to make it easier for patients to come in, and we're going to continue to give quality of care to these patients. Now, many of these, I've been told, actually worked at Emory, trained at Emory. But let's just step back. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, Spencer King, an incredible gentleman, recruited Andreas Granzig. And from this university, from this medical system, Emory taught the world cardiac catheterization, angioplasty, non-invasive procedures so that a patient could avoid bypass surgery. That happened here. That began here. This was the seed. And we need to figure out how we need to be smarter and stronger so that we can address this competition, but we can't sacrifice the quality. And we deliver the quality today. We have to be smarter in this space. This is cancer. And I want to thank Suresh for this. The same southeast belt of cardiovascular disease we see in cancer. Rates of cancer highest in the region that we live in. What are we doing about this? When we look at the map of Georgia and look at the concentration of where cancer cases occurred, they're in our region. And as Suresh reminds me, 1 in 5 patients comes to our tower, comes to our cancer center, Winship. How are we addressing this for the greater Georgia as well as the better part of our region? We're building a tower, 16 floors tall. I had a chance to tour part of this. As we open up in May, we have to make sure that we ensure the quality of care. The access is going to be easy. Making sure that our clinicians are prepared, our staffing is appropriate, our efficiency is best in class. And if we don't do that, building a structure is not going to be helpful. It's our people. It's all of you. And I'm confident with the leadership that we have in place, we'll be successful. This is another map of the United States, this time in tiles and colors. And the darker the color, the worse the outcome. Same theme. This time it's maternal mortality. Georgia is only second to Louisiana in terms of maternal mortality. We live in a state with some of the highest maternal mortalities in the United States. At a time when a woman is supposed to be celebrating a birth, we have this risk as a backdrop. Now, there are many reasons for this risk. And thanks to some people here, Danny Phelan, Denise Jameson, Rose Horton, and others, they have a very strong interest in this area. And my hope is that we're going to actually make a difference in this area by creating a center or an institute focused here. Now, this is front and center. In fact, just this past weekend on Sunday, the New York Times had this article. Some of you might have seen it, a full-page article, that it's not just maternal mortality, it's also infant mortality. That's what our community is screaming out to us to become experts in. And we'll do that. We'll do that. Let's turn to finances. You've heard and seen from the memos that we've sent out that we are in a financial crisis. We, as an academic medical center, just like other academic medical centers around the United States, are struggling. The highest inflation we've ever seen in 40 years. Labor costs that are becoming untenable. We have to address this head on. It's affecting us because it's the margin that we create that allows us to carry out our academic mission of research and education. And without that margin, we can't continue that mission. We can't continue the excellent care. We can't continue the research that changes medicine. We can't continue the education of our students. That margin is unbelievably critical. So where are we? From 2018 to 2022, we've seen a growth in revenues. Incredible, actually. The challenge is when you superimpose the expenses, they're essentially identical. And we're at a time when the expenses have now exceeded the revenues. It's the opposite of what we should be achieving. And it's very difficult to carry out our mission in this context. We can't continue to do the research we need to do. We can't continue to do the teaching we need to do. So what are we doing? we are addressing our finances head on. We're looking at length of stay, contract labor, reducing our capital expenses, thinking about who do we hire, making sure we hire primarily patient-facing and revenue-generating, and being much more judicious about every dollar we spend. Much more judicious. Now, a few weeks ago, we sent out a memo, as I mentioned, and we asked for suggestions of what all of you might think we need to do to reduce our expenses and increase our revenues. And what did we find? I was completely blown away by this. As of Friday, a few days ago, 595 people took the time to send in suggestions. They took the time in their day to send in suggestions about what we need to be focused on. These are folks from all segments of our organization to say, pay attention to this. Don't forget this. I thought we were alone. We're not alone. There are a number of people, you in this audience, those people who submitted, who care deeply, deeply about our organization and making sure we can continue our academic mission. And what did they highlight? Making sure that we standardize the surgical kits so we don't use expensive ones. Making sure patients don't miss surgeries, lost revenue opportunity. Looking at leases, expensive leases, because workers are working from home. Planning for discharge on day one of admission. And Dan Hunt is here, a leader in this space, and thank you, Dan. A number of suggestions that came in, and I had a chance to go through all of them. I couldn't fit all of them on one slide, I must admit. I tried to print these out. It was 1,312 pages. That's how much people care about this institution. Now, there was another suggestion, which is redirecting money used for travelers to our own nurses. And a number of questions came in. Why don't we do that? And in fact, we do. Thanks to the leadership, and I see Linda here. I know Sharon's online. I know Rock and Alicia and others in HR, thinking of creative ways of redirecting funds to those people that have dedicated their lives to this institution. Now, Linda McCauley, the head of our nursing school, by the way, our number 2 ranked nursing school in the entire country. Thank you, Linda. She didn't pay me for that. And Sharon Pappas, who among her peers, nursing leaders, just gave her the Lifetime Achievement Award. And I know she's online. I hope she's online. And if not, thank you, Sharon. Together, they've been coming up with creative ways of working with our nurses here, making sure the nurses that are here feel valued, making sure they're paid appropriately, making sure they have a ladder of ascension in terms of career, giving them a reason to stay within our system, perhaps taking different positions even within our own network. One way they're actually thinking about, or another opportunity they're thinking about, is the graduates from our nursing school have loans they have to pay. They have debt when they graduate. And thinking of creative ways of taking that debt and helping them with that debt and loan repayment so that in exchange they spend more time at Emory Healthcare. And we're going to be rolling this out in the next few months. Again, thanks to Linda and Sharon. So we have to be creative. We have to be smarter. We have the resources, and importantly, we have the dedicated people. Let's spend a minute on digital excellence. Every healthcare system in the United States has decided to improve efficiency, reduce cost, improve well-being. They have to be best in class with regards to digital technology. We have to be. Now, I hate clip art, but I could not help but go to this sign. We're open. We don't actually have to put a sign in our emergency room that says we're open. We're always open. We don't have to put a sign in our surgical suites because we're always open. We have to be open. We serve a community. We serve people who are vulnerable. It's a privileged position. What I have heard, and what all of you have heard, is that when our patients, when their families, when their friends, when our employees sometimes want to come to this organization and this institution, they feel stuck. They can't figure out how to get in. I know when they get in, they get incredible care, but they're stuck. And so what are we doing? Well, as I mentioned, one thing we're going to do is actually transform our digital footprint. And thanks to the push from Ira and Bill and others, our CIO and that team, we're going to push hard. We're going to push for best in class. Our digital transformation is going to help our patient experience. Our patients are going to be able to come in and say, I know how much time I'm going to have to wait for my appointment. I know I can schedule an appointment. And in fact, I can actually create a virtual appointment on my phone. Our digital transformation is going to help our care team. Yes, it's going to improve the seamlessness, if you will, of interacting with Epic. But it's also going to provide dashboards and analyses for our caregivers so they see this in real time to help them with billing. Our digital transformation is going to help the researchers. We just recruited an incredible investigator from Ohio in artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence relies entirely on patient registries and patient databases. When I was in Boston, I oversaw a research enterprise of about $2 billion, and 40% of the grants that we brought in depended on data generated by the health system. Huge opportunity for us to get this right, not just for patient care, but as well for research. And then, of course, staff experience, your experience, being able to, with a one-stop shop, under one umbrella, get everything you need from an HR perspective. Imagine prior authorizations and approvals and so forth seamlessly interacting with you through these kinds of devices and technologies. So we will transform this organization to be best in class in healthcare. And I want to thank Greg and Ravi Bellanconda and Chris Augustini, because we've now realized that in order for us to be best in class, we have to bring in some outside talent. And in the next few days, we're going to announce an individual who's going to come in and help us with this transformation. We already begin to see some of the evidence of a digital transformation. Amit Sandane, the chair of radiology, flipped the switch last week. The switch that allows a woman to schedule a mammogram at any one of our 7 sites across our system. And while it might seem easy, he had to make sure the quality of that mammogram and those mammograms were equal and high at each of our sites. And in the ensuing months, he's going to turn on MRI, CT, radiographs, and so forth. But again, making sure that the quality is high. So this is already happening. And I think this was discussed even at the Chair's Council yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, Ira. What else are we doing? So Scott Bowden, if any of you have gone to visit the MSK Institute and Center, you'll completely be blown away by the efficiency of how that organization and those clinics operate. And the lessons learned there have now disseminated. And I want to thank Zerka Smith and Alan Beck, because in their eye center, they're going to adapt many of these changes so that a patient knows how long she has to wait for her appointment. We're going to improve check-in and wait times. There's going to be a board, obviously, protecting PHI, but telling her when she's expecting to come next. Providing incentives to their staff so that they can actually efficiently schedule. And even simple things, like when a patient is in the waiting room and it's been an excessively long time, she suggested giving her a Starbucks gift certificate so that she can go and get a cup of coffee. These kinds of implementations improve efficiency and patient satisfaction. And what she also reminded me was that the aggressive behavior of patients subsides. They're upset when they have to wait 2 hours. But when you treat them with respect and you tell them what to expect, their behavior changes and the staff behavior changes. This is happening today, but we have a lot more work to do. Research, the backbone of this organization, without which we're not a differentiated academic medical center. At Emory, we have incredible investigators. And I've had the good fortune to speak to many of them. Dr. Im, who works on gender disparities. Dr. Manning, in the middle, top, who works on the patient-doctor communication. Dr. Ahmed, who unraveled the mystery of T cells. Fundamental. Dr. Max Cooper, a winner of the Lasker Award 2019. That's just a few years ago, who discovered B cells. That's an Emory doctor. And Dr. George Painter, who discovered antivirals and now are used and have been used in millions of people around the world, these are Emory doctors. These are our doctors. These are your doctors. This is what makes us Emory Healthcare. This is what makes us Woodruff Health Sciences. This is what differentiates us. And there are many more examples of this. We are recognized by national honor societies. These are honor societies where you get elected. They're very difficult to get elected into. And every year, Emory doctors, scientists get inducted into them. Now, we didn't decide that Greg was going to give me an introduction until a few days ago, because I should have put up here that Greg and a number of other people, Reshma and others, were just inducted into the AAAS. But I'll put that aside, and I'll have a slide for you, Greg, next time I talk. But this is the American Society of Clinical Investigation, Neil Gandhi and David Yu, young investigators who make a difference in patients' lives by the research they do, and Suresh Ramalingam, who was inducted into the Senior Honor Society. I didn't say Suresh was senior, I just said it was a Senior Honor Society. And then, since I'm a nephrologist, and I apologize for the bias, Jeff Sands, the chief of nephrology, receiving the highest award in nephrology for science last year at the American Society of Nephrology for uncovering and unraveling how the kidney cells work and concentration mechanisms and discovering therapies for a disorder called diabetes insipidus. This is the research that we do here. This is the research that informs the care that we deliver. Now, we can look at metrics of research which everyone can see. Our public scorecard, so to speak, is widely available. This is grants awarded to Emory by federal grants in yellow and total grants in red. And you see over the last few years, 2019 to 2022, a growth in federal as well as total grants. Incredible achievements. And a number of people here are responsible for this. David Stevens, Vikas Sukatmi, Lucky Jane, and others. While I'm incredibly happy to see this, I'm most proud of this next figure. This is a figure of males versus females awarded grants to Emory from 2019 to 2022. And you see the growth in women principal investigators receiving grants at this institution at a time when the pandemic disproportionately affected women investigators. We saw growth here. Now, we're not going to rest on our laurels, right? We're going to continue to support women at this organization who are incredibly successful. But this is Emory. This is Woodruff Health Sciences. A few days ago, Vikas delivered his State of the Medical School Union address, and I had the good fortune to introduce him. He's stepping down at the end of February. I don't know if he's here today. Oh, Vikas, thank you for everything you've done. He made a promise when he came here 5 years ago, and he delivered on that promise. Culture of innovation with HSRB2 opening, thanks to him and John Lewin and others. DEI strategy, execution of excellence to eminence. The research strategy has paid off. The medical school is ranked number 13. 13 in the United States, pretty impressive. And then he transformed the educational curriculum in 5 short years. Now, he has big shoes to fill, and as Greg said, we have a search going on. We're incredibly thankful that Carlos Del Rio has decided to step in as the interim. And Carlos knows that we're going to put him to work. But thank you again, Vikas, for all you've done. And then in our Pediatric Institute, unbelievable, thanks to Lucky and his team. There's a reason why somebody's born with the name Lucky. But this is not just luck. This is skill. This is dedication. This is passion. Pediatric department ranked number 1 in the United States today. Incredible, Lucky. Congratulations. So a few days ago, and thanks to Dane who sent this to me, the Forbes list ranked America's best large employers. Large, by definition, over 5,000 employees. And the way these ranks go is they send out surveys to 50,000 people and ask, would you recommend your friend or your family to join your employer. Emory Healthcare, among all companies, not just healthcare companies, ranked number 45, and among large employers, ranked number 12 in the hospital category. That's pretty incredible. But what that means is that we have to pay attention to our employees. And thanks to Tim Cunningham and Chad Rittenauer, we have to pay attention to our well-being, your well-being, our workers' well-being, without which we would not have Emory Healthcare, without which we would not have Woodruff Health Sciences. So, I'm going to end and say the following. It's been 52 days. Every day I've listened, I've tried to listen, I've tried to learn, I've tried to strategize and plan with you. Now, some of you might see that one of those days, Friday, February the 3rd, I didn't do as much, and that's because it was my wife's birthday. But the question is, what are we going to do on day 53? What are we going to do on day 54? And as Greg said, we have 2 searches going on. We just started our interviews for the CEO of Emory Healthcare today. Next week, we're going to start meeting, thanks to Greg Jones and our search firm, we're going to start meeting to search for the new dean of the School of Medicine. Those searches are going to go on. And we hope to have people in place in those 2 positions by the summer. That's our goal. What else is going to go on day 53 and 54? We're going to spend a lot of time on our finances. We don't have a healthcare system. We don't have Woodruff Health Sciences unless we do so, unless we are fiscally responsible, unless all of you work and we work as a team to address this challenge. It's not something we take lightly. And we talked about some of the measures we're taking. We talked about contract labor and length of stay and being judicious about our capital expenses and making sure we hire to patient-facing individuals and workers and employees and less so elsewhere. Being careful about the capital that we decide rather than build, maybe be more strategic, and a number of other measures. But this is because all of you want Emory Healthcare to succeed and Woodruff Health Sciences to succeed. We're going to focus on IT and our digital transformation. And you're going to hear over the next few days an individual who's going to come in and work with the great people here, like John Ellis and Mark Overcash and others, to transform the healthcare part of the IT equation. And we're going to improve access. We have to. Access is critical for patient satisfaction. It's critical for our revenue generation. It's critical for our reputation. There are many employees who are scared because they can't get care in our own institution. We have to address this. So I'm comforted. Why am I comforted? Because I know there are people out there like all of you who care. And you can send your feedback, which many of you have done. And from the back of the room, you can actually scan this QR code to provide us with your suggestions. So I'm going to paraphrase what Jimmy Carter said and has said, and that is it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be quick. It's going to be hard. But I'm super excited to be here because I know I have all of you, and we're going to be in a better place next time we speak. Thank you.